after he died, the estate basically took everything and started selling stuff.
Okay, good. All right. So, by the way, here are the pictures. I've managed to reboot my. I actually had to once reboot my entire computer in class. That was very bad. This was only my browser crash. So, if that was the ring, when rings get these big, they do get contested. That's the Kardashian ring. Okay. This is Mr. Van Pelt. Everyone knows what the word intestate means. This is used in the opinion all the time. Anyone know what intestate means? Yeah. Yes. An intestate means you die without a will. Okay. In means non-test means testamentary. You die without a will. When people die without wills, it becomes very messy. And you'll study this next semester. But the statute of wills provides a very detailed path to handle money when people die without wills. So if they're married, their spouse gets a certain percentage. If they have kids, the kids take it by certain percentages. If there are no kids and no spouse, then the grandkids get it, and then the great-grandkids, and then cousins, and sisters, and brothers, and parents, and it goes all the way up and down. There's very specific rituals, right? Here, Mr. Van Pelt died without a will, and this is actually a drawing of the house where they lived. So what happened was the old guy was on his deathbed. He was very ill, and he calls into his bedroom his nurse/girlfriend. It seems he actually promised to marry her, never followed through on that promise, but maybe he's trying to make it on his last few breaths.
The tech wasn't up yet. It was like until later that year. Like it hadn't been a year. In the year.
Well, okay, you're his lawyer. You're bailing him out, right? So, but he had at least expressed an intent to have some sort of relation with her, okay? So he brings her into his room, okay? He points to everything in the house that I want you to have everything in here. He points to the bureau. He points, and then he hands her a key, okay? And this key unlocks a bureau. Everyone know what a bureau is? Like this huge shelf thingy, right? So he hands her the key to this bureau. And when you open up the bureau, inside there was this life insurance policy for $3,000. And it wasn't life insurance policy payable to anyone. It was just payable to whoever holds a certificate, which back in the 1800s wasn't that uncommon. So they have it. So we have a couple items, right? We have first, we have this $3,000 life insurance policy. Second, we have all of this household property, like the furniture and stuff. And third, there was some piano, and there was some other furniture, okay? Let's start first with the life insurance policy. Jordan? Could Mr. Van Pelt have handed her the life insurance policy?
Yeah.
Would that have been easier?
Very.
Why didn't he do that? Why didn't he just hand her the physical paper life insurance policy? It would have taken her 1 second to get.
He didn't actually fully intend to give her the life insurance policy.
What did he do instead of handing her the life insurance policy? Give her the key. What do you think he meant to do by giving her the key? Do you think he meant to give her the piece of furniture, or give it what's inside, or everything above?
I would say he just meant to give her the furniture.
Okay. What do you think? What do you think was the symbolism of giving him the key, or giving her the key? Was it to get the furniture, give everything inside? What did that mean?
I would think both. The key, you have to have the key to get into it. Why would you give her the key if it wasn't his intent to give her what the key accesses?
What do you think, Eric?
I agree. I think the item and all the contents within it.
Okay, but you see the debate, right? Between the three of them, they each looked at it a little bit differently. One said just the furniture, right? The other said the furniture and the inside. This is the problem with allowing these constructive gifts, right? When you have a constructive gift, and the guy, especially when the guy's dead, there's a debate over what you intended. Does the act of giving the key mean you want to open it up and take what's inside, or does it mean you want to give the furniture? I think the easiest rebuttal to that one, I think what the better argument is, if he gave her the key, all you need to say is, hey, open that up and check out what's inside. Hand me that piece of paper. I'll hand it to you. That was taken, what, 5 seconds? 10 seconds maybe? So the reason why, the common law reason was, if you could deliver something manually, by hand, no, hand, right? You should. If you can't, then we can go through the other rules. So I think the court got this one right. Okay, so Matthew, what did the court say with respect to the insurance policy?
They said no to the insurance policy.
Okay, and why did they say no?
Because it was kind of what everyone else was saying. It was really easy for him to just do it.
Okay, good. The court says, as a matter of policy, we're going to construe very narrowly, constructive and symbolic gifts, right? We're not going to get around these rules. Okay. So now, Flora, Lou mentioned a word before. What's a gift causa mortis? What's that mean? You got it, Maria? Gift causa mortis.
When you die.
Yeah, you're trying, right? Alex?
It's when you know that you're about to die.
Good. Good. A gift causa mortis is an exception to the statute of wills. So I told you 5 minutes that generally when you give a gift to take effect after you die, you need to have, the 2 witnesses. The exception to that is if you're on your deathbed. I mean, literally, you're on your deathbed. You're going to die, and there's no time to get witnesses. There's no time to get a lawyer. An oral statement from the deathbed may be upheld. Okay? Those are construed really narrowly because there's so much potential for fraud. Because think about it. Here, who is really the only people who heard the guy doing it? Primarily the person who stands to benefit. So the courts construe these very, very narrowly. So even though there weren't 2 witnesses, they allowed a gift causa mortis, but they said, no, we're going to construe this really strictly. Okay? What's interesting with a gift causa mortis is they can't be revoked. Because say you're on your deathbed, you think you're going to die, and you promise all this property to someone after you die, and then you make a miraculous recovery. Miraculous recovery, right? You can't revoke it. Too bad. You've given it, yeah.
I thought, well, when I was reading, I was like, what is gift causa mortis? And I thought that it said they can be revoked because one of the elements is you have to actually die from what you think you're about to die from at that time.
Well, in more of a modern trend, yes, but I think that the common law rule was you can't suddenly double back because it's considered to be a binding gift, right? It would be very dangerous to allow people to give these gifts and then suddenly if they get better say, oh, just kidding, because you might imagine people give this as like a promise to take care of them on their deathbed. Okay. All right, Lou. What about the furniture? What did the court do with the furniture? Remember, he was like pointing around, he was pointing to all the furniture. How did the court resolve that? Was that enough for delivery?
They split it up between regular household furniture and the furniture that was in her bedroom.
Good.
And
Okay.
they said that there was enough evidence that the furniture in her bedroom was delivered in acceptance. So that her bedroom, that was fine, but the rest of the house, it was more questionable.
What about furniture that can be opened up by the key? About that, remember, like the wardrobe and stuff, the bureau.
I think that was probably acceptable.
Well, what did the court say? Marcel, do you have it? What did the court say about the furniture that can be opened by the key?
That it was a constructive possession given her the key.
Exactly. Why?
Because he gave her the key.
Why is giving her the key constructive possession for that furniture?
Because it was too heavy for her
Yeah.
to actually take away with her, so giving her the key is
The next best alternative, right?
to open it.
Exactly. Handing over the key was like the next best alternative. Okay? And don't worry about the insurance policy for the furniture or the piano. It's not too important. All right, everyone get that? So effectively what the court here does is they do the common law rule. You're allowed to have gifts causa mortis. Okay? You're allowed to have constructive delivery. but only where it's not practical to convey the actual item. If I can hand you physically a piece of paper, an insurance policy, that's what I should do. That the old guy didn't do that means to suggest maybe he didn't want to have the insurance policy. Maybe he just really wanted to have this furniture. Maybe, maybe not. Who knows? But that's sufficient. Okay. Questions on the yes, ma'am.
Analyze the value of the euro, and also they talk about the other where it was just the box that had been given, or the key or whatever to the box. Is that something that they really look at, the value of the thing?
Well, I mean, yeah, I mean, the furniture was valuable, right? There was value to the furniture. Maybe he just really wanted to have this furniture. Jason, didn't you say a few minutes ago that your parents want fighting over furniture? Yeah. So, I mean, people do fight over furniture. There's sentimental values. I don't know what was in your situation, but...
Well, it's mostly sentimental value.
Yeah, so maybe...
But monetary value is
exactly. So what happened in this case was they liquidated all the furniture. They sold it all for cash. So at this point, they were just dividing up the amount of money. So it wasn't really at this point for sentimentality, but you know that might be a factor. Other questions? Questions? No? Okay, let's see. Anything else in this case? All right, let's move on to the next case, the Gruen versus a Gruen case. Anyone here art collector, ever collect art? I know nothing about art collecting. This is the painting at issue by Gustav Klimt, who was a painter of some renown. Okay, so we need here to introduce the concept which we'll study next week. Okay? The difference between a present interest and a future interest. Let me explain. A present interest and a future interest. So imagine, let's give an example that you're familiar with. Say that you're living in an apartment this school year, and you know that someone else has already signed the lease for it next year, right? You're in their present, and someone else is in their future. That other person's already signed his lease, so he already has a claim to it. And he knows that on January 1st, 2016, he gets to move into the apartment, but you're there till then. At the present moment, today, in 2014, it's your apartment. You live there, right? No one else can be there. But at some point in the future, it goes to someone else. Okay, simple enough concept. Imagine a slightly different concept. Say, you own your house, and you want to give the house to your son after you die. So you can do this one of two ways. Okay, the more common way today is to leave the house in your will for your son. You say, on my death, I will give a testamentary gift to my son. Okay? Or you can do it the more complicated way, the old way, which is what we'll be focusing on the next 6 weeks. You can actually give your son a future interest in your land. Right? You say something like this. I own it for life, then to my son. In other words, before this, right, before you wrote this sentence, you owned your house outright, you owned it 100%. But then you said, I own it for life, and then to my son. We call the first clause a present interest, meaning I own this house now. Your son has is called a future interest. Even though the future interest doesn't kick in until some point in the future, namely when you die, we all die, everyone dies, the son still has a stick in the bundle, if you will. Right? The house is viewed as a bundle of sticks, right? All property is a bundle of sticks. The father owns the present stick, and then the son owns the future stick. As long as the father's alive, he has a stick, and the son has a future stick. What happens when the father dies? The son now has both sticks. He has both the present and the future stick. He has the entire bundle, and we say he owns it outright. While the father's alive, they share the sticks. Again, the father has the present, the son has the future. Once the father dies, they come together, and then the son has all the sticks in the bundle. He owns the house 100%. Or what we might call fee simple, which we'll read about next week, but I won't bother you with that language. Everyone get that? That's exactly what happened with this case. The painting is a bundle of sticks. The father said, during my life, I will own it, and son, after I die, you will own it. And once the father dies, the sticks come together, the son owns it outright.
But at that present time, does the son have any interest?
He has what's called a future interest.
Okay.
Right? The red stick is a future interest. The blue stick is the present interest. During the father's life, these interests are separated, which is fine. But once the father dies, they come together. Okay? Let's do the facts of the case. I think it'll help make a little bit more sense. Okay, Nick, what happened in this case?
The son was at school, and the father wrote him a letter saying, I want you to have this painting after I die.
Okay, good. So actually, he did something a little bit funnier. He wrote him one letter. What did the first letter say? There were a couple letters. This is where the lawyers come into play.
Well, he messed up because it would have affected his taxes or something if he had given said that he had to word it a certain way in order to avoid some sort of effect on the value of the painting.
Okay, good. So here's what happened. First, right, the father wrote a letter to the son saying, you know, on your 21st birthday, I want to give you this painting after I die, right? We don't have that letter. The reason why we don't have that letter is it was destroyed. Okay? Why was it destroyed? Because something called the estate tax or the inheritance tax. Some of you may know about this. If you inherit money and it's a lot over a certain amount, you pay a tax on it. Okay? So grandpa leaves you this very expensive house, you may have to actually sell the house to pay the inheritance tax on it. Right? So as a way to get around the inheritance tax, the father tried to do something smart. He said, you know what? I'm not going to give this to you as a gift after my death. I'm going to give it to you as a gift during my life. But I'm not going to give it to you. Exactly. So Carson, let's think about the two elements of the gift. What are the two elements of a gift from before?
You have to. There has to be clear intent to transfer.
Okay.
And then there has to be actual or constructive.
Okay, so you have to have intent, right, and delivery. Carson, was there intent here?
Yeah.
What was the intent?
The intent was for the father to keep it, or to maintain, I guess, a possessory interest in it while he was still alive, but on his death, transfer it to his son.
Be very precise. With respect to the gift, I'm not worried about what the father's keeping. With the gift, what was the father's intent with respect to the gift to the son? What was he giving him?
Giving him a painting.
No, he was not giving him a painting. What was he giving him? Think in terms of the bundle of sticks, right? Here, it's on the book, right here. Bundle of sticks, right?
Right.
Was he giving him the entire bundle of sticks?
No.
What was he giving him?
It's giving him.
Which stick? Remember, there are two interests we're talking about. It's a present interest and a future interest.
Give him the future interest.
Exactly. He had an intent to give a future interest. This is the hardest part of the case. If you get this, you're smooth sailing. The father didn't want to give him the entire bundle, that is, the entire painting. He only wanted to give him a future interest in the painting. Right? We don't actually chop up the painting into pieces. That would be very stupid. Right? We don't actually cut the painting into little slivers. This is all conceptual in our minds. But within a given painting, there's always a present interest and a future interest. So father gives the present interest to the son, right? But he retains the present interest. Everyone see that? He's just separating the sticks in the bundle. The father's keeping the present interest, and he's giving the future interest to the son. Okay? And Carson, was there delivery of this future interest?
There was no physical delivery.
No, that wasn't what I asked. Was there delivery of the future interest?
Of the future interest by the letter, yes.
The letter. So here's the deal, right? Carson, would it have been possible to physically deliver a future interest?
No, I don't think.
The answer is no. That's right. You can't deliver a future interest. You can't chop up the painting and say, here's a corner, right? The future interest only comes into existence when the father dies. The same if I say, I'm going to live in my house for life, and then it's my son, right? At the present, your son doesn't get anything. All your son gets is a letter or an instrument or some document. Right? The key part of this case is to separate the sticks in a bundle. We've been doing this for a while, so I hope you take time to think about this through. The father was keeping the present estate. The son got a future. So in that sense, the elements are satisfied. The father had the intent to give the future interest to the son, and the letter was a form of delivery. And the son definitely accepted it.
The father, does he still have control over it to do as he wants until?
Oh, okay. Eddie's question is, what can the father do? Eddie, what stick does a father have? And how long does that last for? And when will that interest run out? Good. So what can the father do to it? What can the father do with the painting? Can he give it away? Can he give it away? Can he sell it?
Well,
Well, all right, Eddie. Somebody ask this question. Say the father sells it to someone else, right, for $1 million. Then the daddy dies. Who comes knocking? The son. So the father can sell it, but whoever's buying it has to realize that he only holds it for so long as the father's alive. You can only transfer the interest you have. The father's present interest, if you want to get fancy, we'll do this next week, is called a life estate. The father owns it for his natural life. You can buy a life estate from someone at your own peril. Because the second this guy dies, you lose it. And the son comes and says, hey, I'm Josh. Nice to meet you. Give me my property. And you can't stop it. So the father can convey his life estate, but that'd be a very foolish idea. No one will buy it. So effectively what the father did was he carved out for himself this interest for the rest of his life, and he left the rest of the sticks in the bundle for his son. And once the father assumes room temperature, then the son gets all of it. Yeah.
Can the father still revoke the future interest?
I'm sorry, say it again?
I'm sorry, can the father still revoke the future
No. Can you revoke a gift?
Oh, so it's the same.
You cannot revoke a gift. This case is gift just like with the ring or anything else. Once you make a valid gift with intent and delivery, it ain't yours anymore. The father only retained the present interest for himself, and he lost the future interest. In case you weren't surprised, yes?
Is the future interest given at what the item is worth at that time? So could the father cut it and get mad and slice it? Now, does the son have recourse against his estate if he damaged his interest?
Well, that's interesting. So generally speaking, and we'll say this later, if you hold a future interest in property, you can sometimes get a court order if the property is being destroyed to stop them. If there's doctrines of waste and other things, so yes, the future interest actually does hold some sort of cloud over the property. Yeah. Do you have the hand up? Yes.
Yes. What if the son dies before?
So I was trying to be a little bit brief, but in reality, it's usually like this. I own it for life, then to my son and his heirs. You'll see that when you do the readings, right? Even if the son dies, the son has heirs. And then the heirs take in the place of the son. So it's very rare to leave something to someone by themselves. You leave it to them and their heirs, even if they die. Oh, now you're getting into next week. Yeah, a little
And if you do not say and his heirs, it's presumed.
Ah, okay. So it's not presumed. So let's delete this now, right? I know for life and then to my son. What if the son's dead? What do you think happens? Where do you think the land goes? No.
Oh, God.
It goes back to the heirs of the father. Oh, you're gonna love this. You're gonna love this. Unless you specify to my son and his heirs, it goes back. It's called reversion. You'll do this next week. You'll hate it. Sure. I'm honest. You're not gonna like it. It's not fun. This is the funnest will be. Okay. Is that a hand? All right. So the key part of this case. All right. So let's actually walk through the facts. Right. I gotta go around. Mario. So what did the court do here? How did the court handle the situation? We had the stepmother saying, no, follow the will, and then you had the son saying, oh, no, I have this letter. What did the court do?
They know that the son did hold future interests in the name
Mm-hmm.
because the father didn't have a present intent.
Uh-huh. Okay, exactly. Did the father hand over the entire painting? The answer is absolutely not. What the father did do on the advice of his attorney, which was perhaps risky, was that he handed over only, my red stick, the future interest. He had a present intent to transfer a future interest. He did that. He delivered it by the letter. The letter is acceptable. The mother says, oh, why didn't you actually hand him the physical painting? Well, that wouldn't make much sense. You're not actually giving him the painting. All you're giving is a future interest in the painting. And for that purposes, the letter was sufficient. Okay? And as an afternote, the painting was sold for $5 million after he sold it. And then a couple years later, it was sold for $23 million. So you can see why the mother and the son were fighting over this one so viciously. Yes, sir.
As far as the letter goes to the son, he doesn't need anything other than the letter itself. Witnesses, things like that.
No. See, this is a way around the statute of wills, right? It's not a testamentary gift because he was actually giving the interest during his life. These are how lawyers get around things. What's also interesting is this son actually apparently did tell all his friends and bragged about those at Harvard. So I think there was proof of acceptance. All right, other questions? All right. I'm going to stop here because I have to get ready for my thing afterwards. But I encourage you all to come down at 12:20 in the auditorium. Enjoy it. You'll get a Constitution. And no class on Wednesday. I'll see you all on Monday. Take care. You mean in 30 minutes, right? And please pass the roll back up. Thank you.
Same thing.